This is an emergency warning. It's not a drill. It's not hyperbole. I'm not being hysterical. The Labour Party, especially slippery Starmer and mad Miliband, are working with the globalist freaks who are encouraging Western democracies to destroy their own economies by polarising the British farming industry. The revolting tax grab to put family farms out of business is just the start of this drive for us to be forced into a vegan diet unless we're prepared to chow down on bugs. Take heed of this warning from Gareth Wyn-Jones as farmers intend to converge on Downing Street with their spiritual leader Jeremy Clarkson next week.
The farming community is going to be feeding people, not supermarkets, not government. It's going to be us. And without the support and the understanding from government, it's making life even harder to produce affordable food for poorer people in society. And that's what's going to happen. People are going to go hungry. And I've said for a long time, we're sleepwalking into food shortages. And I'll tell you something, it's coming a lot quicker than what people think. Watch this space. There's something major going to be happening in the next few days, and it will shock the government and shock the nation.
Terrifying, right? And remember, two-tier Keir is now a proven compulsive liar. His reassurances at COP29 today, meaningless, but I'll come to them in a moment. I guess what I'm heartened by is that Jeremy Clarkson is now well aware of the threat all British farmers that are not massive corporates are facing. After starting with a softly approach, he has declared war on the government in turn. Following the disgraceful budget, Clarkson wrote, "Farmers, I know that you have been shafted today, but please don't despair. Just look after yourselves for 5 short years and this shower will be gone." And then he turned up the heat in his Sun column at the weekend, writing, "I'm becoming more convinced that Starmer and Reeves have a sinister plan. They want to carpet bomb our farmland with new towns for immigrants and net zero wind farms. But before they can do that, they have to ethnically cleanse the countryside of farmers." And sometimes this Labour Party is so arrogant, they say the quiet bit out loud. And that's what happened last night when John McTernan, the influential Labour strategist who worked for Tony Blair, admitted the plot to put all small British farmers out of business on GB News. Watch.
So we can do to them what Margaret Thatcher did to the miners.
So just to be clear, John, you would, beat them up?
No, close them. I mean, this is an industry we could do without.
So, okay, all right, so this got weird. So you would do to farmers what Margaret Thatcher did to miners, which was, and she used very heavy-handed police tactics, followed by what? Putting them out of business.
If people are so upset that they want to go on the streets and spray slurry on them, then we don't need the small farmers.
Right.
Now, of course, slippery Starmer distanced himself from those comments today.
John McTernan, a former aide to Tony Blair, of course, the Labour Prime Minister, says your party wants to do to the farmers what Thatcher did to the miners. It's an industry we can do without. Is that what you think about farming?
No, I totally disagree. I'm absolutely committed to supporting our farmers. I said that before the election, and I say it after the election. That is why in our budget last week I was very pleased that we're investing £5 billion of our budget over the next 2 years into farming. That is really important for our farmers, and I will do everything I can to support them, because I think it's essential that they not only prosper, but prosper well into the future. So I totally disagree with those comments.
That is bullshit. Starmer is a bullshit artist. We can no longer trust a single word that man says. He is a compulsive liar who will say one thing for political expediency only to U-turn within weeks. And just remember, with no farmers, there is no food. Jeremy Clarkson is right to lead the rising up. Now, the uncancelled interview. And how exciting to have with me today Bernie Spafford. She is the well-known British businesswoman who, of course, nearly lost everything for talking about the truth online, not just during the COVID pandemic, but recently after the Southport riots. But don't worry, they haven't silenced her. In fact, today, look at this, the launch of If This Is True, a brand new YouTube channel where Bernie is going to take on some of the biggest issues in the news, what's really going on with the World Economic Forum, what's really going on with carbon capture. And Bernie, it's absolutely perfect to have you here today on launch day as the war on British farming gets really serious. You were a farmer, you were very passionate about this topic. John McTernan revealed the plan last night, didn't he? They want to destroy all small British farms.
Yeah, and I think that's true, but it's something that's been in the making for probably 20 or 30 years. And we saw it start happening in Europe 4 or 5 years ago when the farmers began to rebel against the new Green Deal. And they saw this need for governments to start consolidating parcels of land. And what we're seeing in the UK, and we have seen again, probably since the 70s, is that large-scale farming is more efficient. Supermarkets find it easier. We don't have big markets, do we, in this country, because the weather's bad all the time. So supermarkets are convenient. And of course, the supply chain needs to be as efficient as possible. But Jeremy Clarkson is exactly correct. They are trying to ethnically cleanse the green land of farming, small farmers, because they're going to be putting in its place carbon capture machines, huge batteries, solar factories. I refuse to call them farms. Farms produce food, pylons, and they will need to rent this space from farmers or buy it from farmers. So whatever Keir Starmer says is completely untrue. This is happening now. As a small-scale farmer, I could rent out, 20, 30 acres to a business, and they would pay me a fixed fee for 20 years per acre. I wouldn't need to worry about fertilizer and prices. I wouldn't need to worry about my sheep getting fly strike. All of those worries are gone. And that's exactly what the government is doing.
What about that very sinister warning that we saw in the digest there from Gareth Wynne Jones, Bernie? He talks about imminent food shortages and something even worse coming that will shock the nation.
I think that, yes, they can do a lot to stop the flow of food, but they can't do all that much because the supermarkets own a lot of those farms. So if you look at someone like Morrison's, it owns its entire delivery mechanism from farm to abattoir to transport to store. So any gaps they have, they could easily just bring over from Europe. So I think the farmers have to be careful how they do this. Blockading ports is an easier way for them. Withholding food from supermarkets will really damage them because they have contracts. They have to supply food or they lose their contracts and they lose payment. And many of them can't afford to do that. And I personally would not support a farmer doing that. And I would understand if they couldn't. But there are other ways that they can definitely make their feelings known, as they have in France.
Indeed, indeed. But the problem is, Bernie, we cannot trust a word that Starmer says. I mean, this is the guy who Jeremy Clarkson has banned from his pub, the first person who has ever been banned from Clarkson's pub.
Absolutely.
And his words are meaningless today, aren't they? His words are meaningless because we have been lied to now constantly and consistently by this guy for 5 years. So I don't believe for a single second that he wants to protect farmers.
No, I don't think he does. But he will try and make it right for small farmers. That's what the corporations going out there buying up land and renting land for solar is all about. You make it difficult enough for a small farmer. You make it so hard that his thin profits are even harder to attain because the price of fertilizer or the new regulations over stupid net zero. He will eventually give it up, and he will give it up to a corporate to put a solar farm in. He will. And then when he dies, can the children really be asked? No, he hasn't farmed for years anyway. There's a big solar factory on it. They're just going to sell it. So don't think that this is an immediate plan. Oh no, this will be for the next 10 to 15 years.
But first, this episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the global leader in men's lifestyle and grooming. Every man knows the unbeatable feeling of a fresh barbershop shave. Now, what if I told you that you no longer have to wait weeks or even months between appointments to experience it? Introducing Manscaped's latest release, the Chairman Pro Package. The all-in-one set includes everything you need to recreate the luxury of a professional shave right at home, whether you're after that daily silky smooth finish or prefer to maintain a rugged 5 o'clock shadow. The Chairman Pro Package has you covered. First up, we have the star of the show, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver. It isn't just any shaver, it comes with 2 interchangeable skin-safe blade heads. You have the skin-safe 4-blade foil for that close, smooth shave when you're looking to go completely clean. And you have the skin-safe stubble trimmer for when you want to keep a bit of that rugged look. I like that. Both heads designed with skin-safe technology to help reduce razor burn and irritation so your skin feels smooth and comfortable after every shave, reducing redness or discomfort. A standout feature is the Flex Adjust technology, which ensures a superior shave by allowing both blades and the pivoting head to seamlessly adapt to the unique contours of your face. And here's something that's going to make your grooming routine even easier. The Chairman Pro is waterproof, so you can use it in the shower. It also simplifies cleanup to just a quick rinse under the sink and you're all set. It's also powerful enough to tackle up to 5-day growth, making it perfect whether you're shaving every day or just tidying up after a few days. And with up to 75 minutes of runtime on a single charge, you won't have to worry about running out of juice mid-shave. It also comes with a travel lock too. But that's not all. The package also includes the Power Shave Gel to get the ultimate wet shave experience. It's packed with skin-soothing ingredients that defend against redness and irritation. And to finish off, we've got the Face Shave Soother. This aftershave serum is a game changer. Use it after shaving to hydrate your skin and smooth any post-shave irritation. So get the Chairman Pro Package today. Experience a shave that is as smooth as you deserve. It has everything you need to keep your face looking and feeling its best, all in one box. So head over to www.manscaped.com and join the over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. Use the code OUTSPOKEN at checkout. Just enter the word OUTSPOKEN. You will receive 20% off and free shipping. That's www.manscaped.com using the coupon code OUTSPOKEN.
That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's terrifying. It's completely terrifying. Starmer is working in lockstep with so many of these globalist organizations that you expose on it if this is true. But Bernie, you felt incredibly personally some of the consequences of Labour's lies when it came to the Southport massacre. Now, I have described this as a cover-up on the show now. Axel Ruda-Cabana has been charged with terror offences. He did produce ricin. He did have an Al-Qaeda training manual within his house. And Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper knew about it, almost certainly. That's according to the former Prime Minister Liz Truss on this show, the former Home Secretary Priti Patel in the Daily Telegraph. They almost certainly knew about it when they were trying to demonize people like you, Bernie, who were simply asking questions because there was a vacuum of official information.
That's true. That is true. And it's probably why I ended up not being charged, because, of course, I hadn't hit either threshold for either charge. They already knew. There was absolutely nothing they could do. And do I think some of those people, all of those people, should be released? Of course I do. They withheld the truth. And that is a massive problem to me. People ask me, you know, am I a free speech absolutist? You've asked me before. And I say, do you know, what comes first, the free speech or the information? I'm an information absolutist because it's only with the full information can you ever make a democratic decision about how you think your government should operate or how you think your country should be run. And that's what's happening to us all the time. So it's not only about the issue of Southport or about the issue of illegal immigration. And yes, I've seen MPs stand up in Parliament and say, we really need to understand who's getting all our council houses. Well, they don't want to tell you that information. They don't want to tell you anything that may distract you away from the narrative. And I hate that, because without free information available for us to discuss, then we can't partake in our democracy, and it's stopped being a democracy. In fact, I have a new word, which is on my new show, called elitocracy, right? It's become an elitocracy where we're ruled by the few with a blueprint of how we should live our lives. And the masses think they have a say, but they don't, because they don't have the information with which to have a say on. And that's a massive problem to me.
Of course it is. And that's why it's so powerful that you have now used these words, if this is true. And actually, you're throwing them back in the faces of the people who lie to us, of the people who choose to withhold information from us, of the people who, I think in a very sinister way, after the Southport massacre, purposefully lied to the population and then terrorized us so that we were all going to be too scared to say anything. And look at some of the political prisoners now, Bernie. Peter Lynch, who was not part of any violent riot, dead behind bars. Yeah. If we're to believe the official narrative, he took his own life in prison. Lucy Connolly, the wife of a Conservative politician who sent a post on X, behind bars for over 2 years. Julie Sweeney, the grandmother, the full-time carer for her husband, who made a Facebook post, now locked up for over 2 years. And of course, the ultimate guy when it comes to this, Tommy Robinson, also now behind bars for 18 months in HMP Woodhill. So do you believe that the UK does now have political prisoners who were locked up to send a message to try and terrorize the wider population?
Yes, of course I do. And it started with Julian Assange and keeping him within the confines of an embassy. He couldn't come out, he'd be arrested. Anything that the government does not want you to say, it will quash. Now, it's currently done it in this very heavy-handed way by putting ordinary, and they are ordinary people, in prison, ahead of rapists, ahead of potential terrorists, ahead of all of those illegal migrants. None of them are locked up. We've locked up ordinary people for having a voice, and that will continue, but it's going to continue through legislation. I don't believe they're going to, at the moment, throw people into prison, although those farmers should be careful in London. But they will do that through legislation. That's how they'll try and silence you. And if you look at what's happening in Australia at the moment, their misinformation, disinformation bill is talking about the need to actually have digital ID to use the internet. Mm-hmm. So they'll know what you do, how you do it, when you do it, and where you live. And they will stop you from revealing the truth. And it's frightening. You know, where are we now? November. I spent weeks and weeks being terrified of being rearrested. My entire reputation had been utterly destroyed. What do you do? Have they won? Did they win? And is that what I want people to remember when I die, when they Google my name, all that crap they can see? Or do I need to do something different? And there are so many people like me. I refuse to be quiet. And when Julie Sweeney gets out, I'd love to talk to her. unfortunately, we can't speak to Peter Lynch, can we? And we can't hear the pain and the terror and the awfulness he experienced just because he wanted to say how he felt about his country. It's appalling. It must stop. And I tell you what else, Dan, I'm absolutely sick of hearing the silent majority, because the time for silence is over.
Indeed, and I describe us as the silenced majority, but you're right, and that's why I'm so glad, Bernie, you haven't gone away. You've come back more forcefully. Obviously, I went through something pretty similar, actually, an establishment plot to shut me up. I'm back now too, and the thing is, if you look at what's happened in the US, there is a big shift in where people are prepared to trust their information, about where people are no longer prepared to put their faith for good reason in the mainstream media, which is captured and corrupt in so many instances, but they will trust individuals. And I hope that we can be part of bringing that revolution here to the UK.
And I hope so too, but we're on the cusp now, Dan. This is a very dangerous point in all of our lives. And that's because the governments now know they failed us in COVID. We found it out. We didn't trust them. All the truth about lockdown is coming out. We don't trust the media now. And because we don't trust them, they're going to have to close information down. So your only funnel is them, the single source of truth. Yeah.
As Jacinda Ardern famously said.
That is what's coming. Yeah, Jacinda Ardern.
Indeed, which is why we have to fight against it, and hope actually that the Overton window will shift with Trump in the US.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.